Well, good evening. Thank you for coming this evening and welcome to the February 16th MSAD 60 Board of Directors meeting. We'd like to start by standing and reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll begin this evening with our co-chair, Elva Lovejoy. She'll be talking about public input. The first public input session is a 21-minute session with each person having no longer than 3 minutes in which to make a statement, but a second public input session may be held at the end of the meeting if allowed by the board chair. The speaker will give his or her name, address, and reason for speaking. Public input is designated for district residents, but the board chair may grant non-residents the opportunity to address the board. Statements concerning subject matter that falls under the law regarding executive sessions, for example, matters involving personnel, cannot be made during public input. We as a community pledge to treat each other as we wish to be treated. We pledge to seek understanding when there may be disagreement. Regardless of outcomes or opinions, we pledge to move forward with respect. Thank you. So I would ask if anyone here would like to make a statement. Do you have any public input? All right, then moving along. We're going to move to the minutes of February 2nd. Are there any members of the board who have corrections or questions? I had a question actually. So we list the board members at the top.
Yep.
Do we note who is in attendance or who is?
If you look right underneath it, it says the meeting of the board of directors was held with all members attending except.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Do we have a motion to accept the meetings as is? Motion to accept the minutes of the meeting. We have a second. All those in favor? Motion's passed.
Do we have any exceptions?
I abstain.
Okay, good sessions.
Yes, I can.
Denise, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you.
Echo, would you like to give us the student report for the week?
Sure. So on Tuesday, our Rise Club held a Love is Respect little campaign, and they brought it to lunch. So all the students could go up and sign to pledge that they will be respectful in relationships. And it really brought forward the significance of healthy relationships. And after signing, they were able to pick up a bracelet, which I have on, and get fruit snacks. And going into February break, after we come back, we will be approaching the month of March, which contains no breaks. So the Wellness Club and National Honor Society has been coming up with ways to alleviate the stress and burnout that month often brings. And some of these brainstormed ideas include acts of kindness and pajama day.
Thank you very much, Echo. Any questions for Echo? All right. So we're going to move on to Noble for All.
Where do you want us?
You can go right to the podium.
Okay.
So I'm excited to have some of our Noble for All district-wide committee members with us tonight. I think the name of this committee really underscores their mission, which is to ensure that every student at MSAD 60 is successful. They continue to champion educational equity to make sure that every student feels safe, welcomed, and is represented, and also has access to what they need to be successful as a learner. This committee started last year and met monthly. The charge last year was really just to gain knowledge and understanding of this work and our capacity to do this work. And at the core, this work is really about strengthening our school community to make sure that it's welcoming and everyone has what they need to succeed. This year, the charge of the group is about being a support system for the building-based level work. We meet monthly and we get to hear what's going on at each school, which gives us a good K-12 snapshot of this work across the district, and we can hear successes, and as a we can help support and provide ideas and suggestions for how these committee members can further the work in their own building. So we only have a sampling of a few committee members here tonight. Each building is in their own place, this work, and they have their own developmental needs in terms of a K-12 perspective of this work. So wherever they are right now is exactly where they should be, because this is a learning process, and really trying to have our staff understand that this isn't something separate. Like, this equity work is not a silo, but a lens that we use to look at how we lesson plan, how we discipline, how we look at data. So it's just a lens that we use and practices that we already do. So you can hear briefly from a few of our committee members just about their committee, their building goals, and some of the work that they have done this year. So I will hand it over to our elementary rep, Riley. Come on.
Hello. My name is Riley Godso. I'm a grade 4 teacher at North Berwick Elementary. I'm representing K-5, so it's going to be a little chunky. In my building, I am on the committee with Mike A. But I will say that across the board, the elementary goal really is we're keeping the pace pretty slow so that everything we do is actionable. Everything we send out, every goal we have, we can do something about it, and it feels manageable for the staff. Our goals are really to reflect on what we're doing each day and to implement a more inclusive lens in our everyday practice. This means that we are asking ourselves an essential question, which is, are the resources and are the systems that we have and the things we're doing reaching all of our learners? So essentially what we're doing is, across the school, we're looking at literature. That's our goal for this year. For example, at North Berwick, our librarian is reviewing, adding, auditing our classroom library to make sure that we're representing our whole crew. Lebanon has a civil rights team, and all the schools are in the same reflective practices as North Berwick Elementary. Just making sure that all of our kids feel included, they feel safe, they feel like we're in a positive cultural climate. Knowlton specifically is in the midst of a 3-year cohort with the Maine DOE to fully implement PBIS, which is a positive behavioral system, to create a positive, consistent, equitable space for students to be in. And so across the board, we're trying to make sure that kids feel welcome, that they feel seen. That's pretty much it.
Thank you.
Melinda, we'll chat for the middle school.
Good evening, Melinda Lueders. I'm the assistant principal at Noble Middle School. The middle school has really been working on looking at our curriculum, specifically our assessments that come at the end of units from an equity lens. We often hear the word in education, differentiation, and we are looking at taking that word underneath the DEI lens of, is it meeting our different abilities of learners? Is it meeting the needs for, even the socioeconomic diversity that we have? Is every student able to access our summative assessments, no matter where they're coming from? So our goal here is to examine and refine the current curriculum and resources with the DEI lens and provide equitable access to opportunities for all students. We are reinforcing the "we got this" ideas that came from that book that we read as a district last year. And we have also continued, very similar to the elementary schools, to build a diverse library, specifically in our classrooms. We often use the school library as a ideal, and Susan Grabowski kind of helps with the classroom library as well. And then during the PD Wednesdays, so when we have late starts for our students, our staff are working by departments to look at the summative assessments and examine those with a DEI lens. Some of the other things that are happening are also, there is a daily digest. That is a email slideshow that gets put out for all staff, and resources are often put on there. Articles of interest, we have those that are put on there that relate to diversity, equity, inclusion. And there are small groups that will then do kind of like an article talk about it to dive in a little further. And that's basically an interest-based group. Let's see. The other thing we're looking at is specifically in the area of social studies. We have a social studies department this year. It's kind of unique. We have 6 staff members. Out of those 6, 2 of them are there's 3 per grade, 3 6th grade, 3 7th grade, and 2 of them in the 6th grade are brand new to our district. So there's been a lot of onboarding and making sure that they're up to date on best practices with talking about historic elements from a different lens and really trying to bring in a lot of first primary resources to get different perspectives based on the events that they are studying. And then the last thing is myself and another teacher have been working with the DOE for the past month, participating in a book study called Blind Spots. And I'm forgetting the author's name at this time, and I apologize. And we're looking at editing that novel or that book to implement next year for the entire staff. And there's a March 2nd event in Augusta where the author is coming to Augusta to talk about their book.
Thanks. Linda? High school?
Yeah.
Yourself. Good evening, all. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Morgan Lynch, and I am an 8th through 12th Spanish and Russian teacher at the high school.
And AJ Dufort, principal at the high school. And I will warn you guys, we did not do extensive practice with this, but we're going to do the best we can to play off one another a little bit. I think to kick things off, what's really important is this work fits directly to one of our building-based goals and something that we strive for every day. So promote a school culture that embraces collaboration and values the achievements of all students, staff, and community members. So we see this work as really, really central to helping us to better that goal. I don't know if you ever meet that goal, but certainly a continuum to approach having a place that really, values that collaboration and values everyone within it. So one of the pieces that we did in September to kick off this work was all of our staff completed an equity rubric. So they went through this rubric looking at, their curriculum, their beliefs, sort of the culture of their classroom environment. And then they partnered with a grade level partner. So a 9th grade math teacher may have partnered with another or the other 2 9th grade math teachers to talk about what were some of the results that they got. And I think it was really powerful because it was not, sort of someone's doing something wrong. It's an approach to look at, hey, what am I doing? And sort of that lens of how can I be better?
To second that, definitely it comes down to the consistency that we have in our structure here at the high school. Obviously, we have so many different departments, so many different subjects we look at. And so being able to sit down and kind of reflect on what are the common practices, what are different things that we're seeing within each classroom setting for students, where are we maintaining those, where are we finding issues with those and discrepancies.
And I'll let you, do you want to take that one?
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
So talking about some of the foundational beliefs that we have and thinking about from our basic framework of routines and building classroom management techniques, part of it comes down to, can we consider how we're actually applying those in the classroom? Are we consistent with those, and do those practices actually reflect both student needs and what students' interests are? A lot of it comes down to reaching all of them and taking into account how they're being, their well-being, and thinking about what else we can adapt, change our practices as an entire group rather than just individually to meet those needs.
And so for the next piece, I just want to talk a little bit about, and this was related directly to the work we did in January. And I just want to read this really short excerpt because I think it sums up really well, and Melinda hit on it. It for us, it really sort of lands on that piece around differentiation, making sure that all students have access to an education, have access to the materials that we're providing, and see themselves in the work that we're doing. So they see how it's relevant and how they can use that to move forward in their future. So it's really short excerpt. There are plenty of ways to integrate diversity, equity, and inclusion into our classrooms. In doing so, we support practices that increase students' sense of belonging, which increases motivation, persistence, and results in improved learning outcomes. Student diversity can be both visible and invisible. And I think that's really important to note. And Morgan's going to talk a little bit about some of the specifics.
For sure. And I think that the biggest thing just comes down to recognition and being reasonable about looking at the whole aspect of who are our students from. We can talk about what groups we're speaking about in our classrooms. Are we talking about sexual orientation, race, socioeconomic status, what sports students are involved in, what interests students have, what post-education career goals they have. So thinking about not just identity pieces, but also all of these whole student picture that we want to make sure that we're fulfilling as an educational institution.
Yeah, and we have a lot of students come to us from a variety of experiences, and they leave us and go out into the community in a variety of ways and pieces and experiences that they're going to have once they leave us. So really helping to foster that and helping them to move forward is really, really important. And one piece that is central to us and something that we really wanted to prioritize with this work is putting the theory into practice, because a lot of this is very theoretical, but what does it look like within the walls of a classroom? So we have broken this down to 5 pieces and 5 lenses, if you will, that staff members are looking at this work through and looking at their own work through. So it's the assessments, grading and feedback, course content, the examples that staff are using, discussions that are happening within classrooms, and also within group work. So those are kind of the 5 areas, because that becomes very concrete to see, okay, within my classroom, when I'm using examples, I want to make sure that I'm using examples with my classroom that all of my students can relate to. Now, maybe not necessarily relate to every example I'm giving, but throughout the course of, a class period, I want to have and make sure that I have something for everyone, something that everyone is sort of, okay, yes, I can see myself in that. Like, yes, that's a career I've been thinking about, or that's, sports, music, the arts are so central to so many of our students, and really being able to be like, okay, I see how that relates. And it really, it helps that motivation piece, gets students excited, and it also gets teachers really excited about that work because they're seeing that, their students' eyes light up, which is always great.
Sure. And coming from assessment standpoint, from the Noble for All group at Noble here, we've been trying to focus on how we can both kind of integrate and help to meld kind of these concepts of differentiation and DEI in the minds of our staff members. And obviously, with all of us being so compartmentalized into different subjects, how can we affect the building as a whole and the community as a whole and help them to improve? And so one of our big targets right now is actually working at rubrics. And so we're thinking about rubrics next year and how we can make them more accessible to our students. Not only, again, seeing themselves in it, but can these students actually understand why they're doing these rubrics and using these rubrics? Do they understand the reasons behind these evaluations?
Yeah, and I think the last piece is this work for us is not, sort of a one-off, or it is central to all. So just a couple of pieces. So the bulk of our work, sort of the most concrete of the work, takes place on Wednesday mornings during our professional development time. But it's woven into our staff meetings. So during our staff meetings, we have departments present on what differentiation looks like for that particular department. So we'll hear from the entire math department or the entire English department to say, okay, within our walls, when we're giving we're looking at a reading piece, here are all the things that we're thinking about to make sure that that reading piece is accessible to all students. Well, reading happens within all of our classrooms. So that's also giving a spark or examples to maybe our art teacher, maybe our history teacher for sure on what I never thought of it quite like that, or I wasn't using that strategy. That's probably a strategy I can use. So it really kind of makes that work more public And then I think the other piece is we have our staff get together in professional learning groups. And again, this is the work that they're looking at. These are the lenses. Okay, there's a prompt. We've got a couple of resources that we're using for some readings and really putting all of those pieces together. So it really is coming at it from a variety of ways and trying to be really concrete in the work. Because I think it's significantly easier and significantly more powerful if the work is embedded in everything that we're doing and not feeling like, oh, it's a one-off, oh, it's it's the third Wednesday of the month. Now we're going to go and do this work. It doesn't work as well that way. So making sure that it's all embedded and connected.
And to echo that, that's something that our Noble for All particular section is kind of looking at as a goal right now as well, is how can we really adopt new members that were within the high school that can give us more perspectives and kind of broaden what we have. Because given the four of us right now that we've been very lucky to be able to meet during this year a number of times to come up with plans and start working with the admin, we are finding that obviously there's limitations to what we can offer because we only come from a few of the many subject groups. And so we're hoping to get more members, and we're trying to currently grow members to get more ideas. We go into data research and looking at what are actual demographics and various areas we can target in the future.
That's it.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, there's a lot. That's a lot. Good work.
So how long have you been?
In existence, how long have you been a group?
Since last year.
Since last year. And how did you recruit your members?
We put out a district survey last year to see, or maybe the end of the previous
Yeah,
year,
end of the
actually,
previous,
to see who would be interested for last year and their reasons. And we wanted to make sure we had representation from all buildings and all departments. And that's how we got our pool. A little different this year. Most of our members are repeats, but then we have some new members this year as well.
It's great. Excellent work.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Other questions?
Well, thank you all for going above and beyond. Appreciate it.
For letting us share.
I always give them this go.
It's okay.
Thank you. Safe travels.
Okay, so we're moving on to our financial summary.
Good evening. I believe you all have the financial summary with your agenda. I think the only thing I wanted to point out, the school administration line, if you look at the balance remaining for the year, after things we've paid and things we're encumbering, such as salaries, you'll notice we have a negative $440 balance. That doesn't concern me. That has to do largely with how we budgeted for the assistant principal at Knowlton. And the fact that we had somebody internal take that. So they were budgeted out in another category, and now half of their time is falling in here. So it's really just, it's all budgeted, it's just in different categories. So again, that's not something that concerns me. And we also, at the end of the year, usually in May or June, we have you approve a 5% transfer between categories. And if this, this will remain negative, so we'll transfer a budget from another category to cover that. Anybody have any questions?
Looks like you're going right along track.
Yeah, most things, like in any year, you have some overages and other things. We've had trouble with staffing. And so we've spent less in some of those lines. And of course, athletic transportation is one where we spent more than we've budgeted. But at this point, I don't see anything that would prevent us from coming in under budget.
Great. Thank you very much, Denise.
Okay.
Okay, and now we're going into the fun review of budgets and the timeline. Thank you.
So we handed this out earlier this year and shared it at the doc, but I just wanna go through it one more time. And as this is being Denise
Oh,
is
I'm
handing
sorry.
Denise is handing out your budget binders, which is always hard because I'm talking and she's passing, and of course it's gonna be engaging. So, just as we're heading, the budget binders are ahead of schedule, looking at February 17th. Today's the 16th, you're getting those budget binders. Next week, you have time, hopefully, to kind of. Week after vacation is a very busy week. We have our facilities and finance subcommittee meetings, and that is with our cost center. Cost centers are coming in. So that's cost centers again, or anybody that has a budget. So departments, schools, like facilities, all of the different departments will come in to the committee and present and talk through some of their intricate pieces of their own budgets. So that is the Facilities and Finance Committee. So that's early in the week when we get back from break. And then the Thursday night, that is really the night that we present so it's March 2nd, we present the superintendent's budget. And at that same time, we've done this different ways, but for this time, the same time, the cost centers will be here. So after the budget presentation, they will be here and we'll take about, I don't know, we typically try to take 20, 30 minutes so that if you have any individual questions after the overall budget, you can ask the cost centers and talk to them and get some specific. So after the March 2nd date, we have meetings scheduled for the Thursdays. So March 9th, March 16th, March 23rd, March 30th, just to ensure that we have enough time and work sessions on the budget. And then Friday, March 31st, we have information for the attorneys. So really our board approval is March 30th for that to be able so that we can go to our attorney for the preparation of documents. So that's a really important meeting. So April 3rd, we are working, Estacio is helping us with our annual report and our cost centers are providing that information now. So we're just doing a final review in April. And then we have to get that annual report out to the printer so it can be mailed to all of our community members. And let's see, April 6th is also very important because we are doing the signing of the warrants and the call. And then Betty, who is working at Huzzy School, comes and she delivers the warrants to the towns. And by Friday, April 7th, the annual report, that's when it has to be sent out. Then we have April break in there. And then the Thursday, the highlighted Thursday, May 25th, that's the budget meeting at the high school theater. We did try to move that. We were unable to do so. And we can look at that for the future, for future meetings, but we could not move it this time. As I know, that abuts a longer weekend. So then June 13th is the district budget validation referendum. The 15th, the board is to sign the validation documents and assessment warrants for the towns. And by Friday, June 16th, the assessment documents are sent to the town. So we're moving into a very active part of the budget process. So, and as you look through your binders, for those of you that are looking, please jot down, we'll walk through the entire budget during the next meeting. But if you have questions or comments, certainly write through them. And we'll be able to answer. Denise, did you want to add something or?
No, I think the only other thing is, we've had conversation, with a couple of the towns about having a meeting. Normally what happens is the superintendent and I go to each town and present the budget, to the select board or the town manager, whoever they want to attend. And this year we're going to try to do it in one evening with everyone present. We're still working on some of those logistics, but that's the plan.
Yeah, we've had some opportunities to talk to both
Dwayne from Northburg and James Bellissimo from Berwick, and they were interested in trying to get the groups together so that we had like consistent conversation and good questions from everybody. Because sometimes Berwick asks questions that Northburg doesn't have, Lebanon does the same thing, so if we can our goal is to get everybody in. It may be that we're gonna end up doing multiple things where we try to get a group together, but we may still end up going to individual towns if that's what's necessary. So, I mean, it's really important for us to get the word out.
Denise, your budget book is in the office.
Thank you. I will try to come and pick it up.
Okay, all right. We can help you if you need it.
Yeah, we can get.
Yeah, we can get it too.
I know it's big.
I don't bring copies.
Yeah, we're not gonna mail it.
Yeah. If I don't pick it up anytime soon, I might. I do.
Yeah.
It's possible that my neighbor could bring it home.
Yes, I think so. I was just thinking that.
We can work on that.
Yeah, children work together.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, all right. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Those quick question, those Thursdays where there's the every Thursday meeting, are those usually at
Same time.
Same, 7 o'clock.
7?
We like, we scheduled all those, but if we're ahead of schedule, we don't need to meet every Thursday. It's just, we wanted to get it on the books just so we had enough time. Because we had to bump up the schedule this year based on when things needed to get in to certain printers and attorneys.
Okay, so,
Thanks, Denise.
yes, thank you, Denise.
You're welcome.
That's what that big shopping bag was.
Isn't it fabulous?
Okay, so we're going to be going to the policy second reading, the student representation to the board.
All right, so the policy has not changed. I think that last time when we were here, there were a couple of questions because we had some members absent, so we held the vote. We also had a question about schools that have a student rep that does vote. Have they had any, for lack of a better word, like backlash, or have they been contacted, or have there been any concerns for the students? And when we reached out to just some neighboring communities too, that we know that have this policy, there have not been any issues for students. So I think, that was the question that was asked. That's that. And we have Denise and Travis here. If you have any questions or comments on the policy, I think that was the concern, that not everybody had seen it and we had made some shifts. And Echo, you had said that there's been no problems, correct? Correct.
Do you have any questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to accept this policy as written.
I've been working on it.
All those in favor? Opposed? And the motion is passed. Thank you.
Thanks.
And now we're up for an employment update.
Okay, so we have a resignation this evening. So we do need a consideration and action. The resignation is Eliza Halbig, kindergarten teacher at Hussey School. And in the letter, she has written that her effective date would be February 24th, 2023, if approved by the board. So we do need a motion for that.
Do we have a motion to approve
Eliza Halbig.
Eliza Helbig's resignation? Make a motion to approve Eliza Eliza Helbig, resignation. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
It's a gun shy over there today.
All those in favor? Oppose? No. Okay, the motion's passed. That was it.
Apologies. I actually need to go, so I'm gonna sign out right now. Thanks.
Thank you, Denise.
Thanks you for being
Thanks,
here.
Denise. Okay, so we're at other in the agenda. Do we have any other action items?
I do because we didn't add a superintendent's report. So I
Okay,
have a few items. So I'll try to be quick. So for school nutrition, Abby Hubble was invited, so she's our school nutrition director, was invited by the Maine School Nutrition Association to participate in the 2023 Legislative Action Conference in Washington, DC. The Maine Association has noted Abby's strong leadership and skills and contribution not only at our district, but at the state level, and feel that she will represent the state very well. So that's great. So Noble High School earlier at Echo, I think you can speak to this too, earlier this week, yesterday, right? We have.
What did you do yesterday?
Maybe, we hosted 4 high schools from West Virginia, not everybody, but staff members from 4 schools in West Virginia, as part of the Great Schools Partnership. So our administrators spoke a little bit about, different things, personalized learning, the high school structure, grading, classroom configurations, to name some highlights. And then student tours occurred, and that's where you participated, correct? And then there were some classroom visits, I would say. So that was very well received. I think duly impressed with the building and our programs here at Noble. It did a very good job. Our administration did a great job just explaining, what's happening here, how it's a special school, because it really is. Our Excel teacher, Krista Bowie from the middle school, has been nominated for the Patricia Bering Teacher of the Year Award. This award recognizes 2 outstanding National History Day teachers at the national level. So they send, so Maine has a middle school and high school nomination. So Krista has been nominated for the middle school one.
Oh.
And then just as some fun for Noble Middle School, they had their first dance since pre-COVID last Friday night, and they had over 300 students attend. So that was well attended. And then a couple.
Dance, though, they were all playing basketball.
Okay. I'm glad to hear
Or sitting in the
basketball. So I'll just touch base on a couple of the elementary schools. There was a kind of a common theme here. So tomorrow marks the 20th anniversary, or the 20th year of the 100th day celebration at North Berwick Elementary School. The tradition was started by Ron Robert, former principal, and has continued since that time. So the way that works is the classrooms are assigned different kind of foods like pasta or sauce or peanut butter, canned goods. And they have a culminating activity to bring everything into the gym or the auditorium, gym, I would say.
Yep.
And so all those are donated. So Lebanon Elementary School recognized World Kindness Day by celebrating throughout the week. So each theme of the day was highlighted. So there was a different highlight each day, and they had a little spirit week with some of that. So I can read you some of them because Puzzy did this as well, and Knowlton did this as well. So like, where your favorites?
Did it too.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, there's a little
I have it right here,
competition going around. So Team Kindness was one day, wear your favorite sports jersey, then, show your love of kindness, wear pink and red and hearts. Kindness ties together, so ties, hair ties, things like that. So those are just some examples of that type of thing. And then they just, at the Lebanon schools, they just finished some of their intramural activities of French Club, Legos, and the Coding Club. Knowlton School is moving on to a community project to collect 700 toiletries, which is quite a bit because they don't have 700 students at the school.
Yeah.
So it's quite a goal. And they're working on that. They will be donated throughout our community as soon as they reach their goal. And they've been celebrating Kindness Week as well. And Huzzy School, similarly to Milton School and the other elementary schools, they're working on the Spirit Days. They're putting hearts throughout the building, recognizing things that everybody is thankful for. And the math coach, Carrie Wilson, the math coach for Berwick, Carrie Wilson, just concluded a successful math club for 23 third graders. And the next round will start up again in the spring. And finally, athletics. We say congratulations to the Noble Competition cheer team. They placed third in the Class A state championship last weekend. The top 3 teams from each class moved to New England's. We also congratulate the Noble Wrestling team on winning the Class A South Regional Wrestling Tournament. 9 wrestlers qualified to compete in the Class A state tournament this Saturday in Sanford. That's the update.
Wow, thank you. Lots of great stuff going on, don't you?
Yes, I
I stopped
Yes.
typing long ago.
To add to that, one quick thing, readathon too, I don't know if it was just Lebanon, but that was a big, very exciting thing.
Yes.
And, you gave the examples of the kindness week, but I just wanted to say my favorite was, Crazy Hair Day.
Oh,
Crazy.
I
That's almost-
I was like sitting there longer trying to watch them as they were going in.
How was Boo's hair done?
So he wanted a mohawk and his hair's gotten really long and I thought that would be a good thing to make it look
Mhm.
nice. But as I learned, which I'm not very good with any of the hair products anyway, but coming this high up, it didn't work with like the gels and stuff. So then I was using every little bit of a mini thing of hairspray. It didn't work. So I just did a Bam Bam right in the
Yes.
center. He loved it. They loved it. He's like, oh, I didn't have any hair in my eyes. I want to do this every day. It was fun.
I have a
Okay.
PG, I have 2 of the 3 PTO updates real quickly. Lebanon, drink over. Lebanon just finished their readathon fundraiser and raised over $17,000 and had over 39,000 minutes read with 97% participation. They have their bingo night fundraiser coming up in March. Then their final fundraiser of the year will be the Penny Wars in May. Their PTO just gave their 4th, 5th grades $2,000 to help fund charter buses for Boston field trip in May. And lastly, they paid for Junk to Funk to be there with them for a week at the beginning of May. And they will work with students all week and will put on a performance to close out their Day of Art celebration happening on May 10th. And then North Berwick, we had our hula hut tournament last month with over 100 kids registered and raised about $1,000. We had our first annual adult prom last weekend and raised, the number isn't final yet, but around 700. And then the PTO is also supplementing the classrooms with the 100-day project. Any classrooms that weren't quite at their 100, they reached out to us to see what we could supplement for that. So we're doing that, and the 100 is going to the local food pantry, the backpack program, and then the One Love community pantry. That presentation, if anyone wants to go, is tomorrow at 10:15 at the gym at North Berwick Elementary.
Mr. Robert will actually be here too.
Oh, nice.
So
Good. And then they also voted to feed the teachers for teacher conferences next month. Not a humper.
Anyone else? So do we have any public input that people would like to step forward? All right. If that is the case, does anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
No. No executive session.
Oh, yeah.
I'll make a motion to go in an executive session, whatever the numbers are,
Okay,
negotiations, right?
got it. Okay, and we will no longer have any other input after the executive session is out. So why be free?
I'm going to stop recording.
Mr. Okay, who was who was our second? Thanks, Echo.
Stephanie.
Oh, yeah.
Sunny, thank you.